welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today's video going to be a post-match reaction to Celtic's vital 2-1 win over St Mirren last night on a very rainy, wet, cold Glasgow night. Quite a vital match, given that we were playing third in the table and needed to get ourselves back on track, get ourselves back to better form, and given our big rivals had a thumping win last night, it maintains our 5-point lead at the top of the division. We've completed the first round of 11 fixtures with 9 wins and 2 losses, 29 points and plus 18 of a goal difference, all of which are excellent, especially given that we've been missing some very key players for some or all of that time, and I've had to make quite a few changes to the defence and the midfield. And obviously, one of our best wide players too is out till after Christmas, as is the case for one of our best midfielders. So, had a good look at all the post-match reactions from various different pundits, Celtic fans, and inverted commas experts on the TV and the internet, and also had a good look at all the highlights and the game footage. And I think Celtic did very well last night to beat a very well organised, well-disciplined St Mirren team. They have a good tight defence, had a goalkeeper very much on form last night, and have some good pacey players out wide and through the middle, and are probably at the moment Scotland's best, third best team, behind the two big Glasgow clubs, and are a little bit more consistent than the teams of a similar level below them. Coming back to Celtic, was very much bemused by Rodgers' starting 11. Quite why we are starting Forrest and Turnbull, I do not know. David Turnbull's contract is up in May 2024. Neither he nor the club seem the least bit interested in renewing or extending his contract. It certainly feels like David Turnbull is taking a page from Ryan Christie's book and running down his contract, looking for a big money move to presumably an English Championship club, because I don't think he's got the quality to go to a top European team or an English Premier League team. And so I guess he's looking at one of the richer Championship clubs who in the 24-25 season will be pushing for promotion back to the English Premiership. Possibly a Leeds, a Queen's Park Rangers, or whoever drops down out of the English Premier League at the end of this season. Thus, I really don't see any mileage in starting Turnbull, and it's very much time we gave starting time to one of the players who's under contract for Celtic for several years, such as Holm or Iwata, or as seems very likely from inside resources, Celtic very much are hoping to sign Paulo Bernardo on a long-term deal at the end of his year-long loan from Benfica, and so I think one of those three really needs to be the player going forward, with the other two coming off the bench as and when required. I think possibly Tomoki Iwata's great versatility is counting against him in that he covers right back, centre-back, defensive midfield, and the box-to-box midfielder role that Hatate plays. Forrest the same. I think his days in the past are gone. I don't think he is ever a starter for Celtic. Potentially a player who maybe comes on the last 10-15 minutes to rest a Maeda, a Palmer, or a Yang, or an Abada once Abada gets back to match fitness, but certainly not a starter. Um, I thought Forrest was pretty much anonymous, didn't really do anything at all, apart from miss a pretty easy chance in the second half when very well set up by Greg Taylor. Also was very disappointed with David Turnbull's overall contribution. Admittedly, he scored a really brilliant goal, lovely curling shot, and then rather bemusingly started taunting the fans, it would appear. Or was it the journalists? Or was it taunting Brendan Rodgers and the money people and the board? Either way, I don't like players doing that sort of thing to taunt crowd or taunt club officials, etc. I think part of Celtic's disorganisation was that Nat Phillips is nowhere near as good as CCV, who appears to be being rested due to a minor knee issue flaring up, having had several games in recent times, which is rather concerning. Although Rodgers does imply that CCV will be fully available for the Saturday game at Ross County and then the Tuesday game against Atletico Madrid, which is much more reassuring. Phillips, for me, was drawn out of position far too often. He seems to cope in a back five, as was the case against Atletico Madrid in the last half hour. But in a back four, he caused a lot of disruption to his teammates. Johnston's positioning was not so good, I think, because he was having to cover for Nat Phillips being out of position so often. The partnership of Phillips and Scales just doesn't work. For that reason, Scales and Taylor's good partnership, that wasn't working, as was very evident on the goal that St Mirren scored. Nat Phillips miles out of position, lovely cross into the middle of the box. Scales appeared to be covering McMenamin, with Taylor covering the other St Mirren player at the back post. However, Scales seemed to get confused, come forward to cover the player in front, even though the cross was going to clear that player by far. And so it looks like Scales and Taylor misjudged the flight of the ball, and Scales left the player to Taylor, Taylor left the player to Scales, and McMenamin scored a clever header, which gave Hart no chance. St Mirren did have a few other chances in the game. Celtic did seem rather disorganised. Nat Phillips didn't seem to really fit in to the back four, seemed to cause confusion also with the midfielders such as Callum McGregor, quite often out of position. And I do again think, why are we playing Nat Phillips, given the fact that he's only going to be with the club for November and December, unless things change in the winter window. And so much better, I think, personally, if we had played Lagabielka and then brought on maybe Navrocki late in the game. Lagabielka and Scales developed a very good partnership, which then got disrupted with Lagabielka's sending off in Feyenoord and then the return of CCV. And I think Lagabielka should be the backup to backup player for central defence, along with Navrocki at the moment, and then in time probably Scales dropping down to being backups with Lagabielka after Phillips leaves the club. Celtic did get us back into the game nicely with good shot from Turnbull, nice play by Matt O'Reilly to set him up. Matt O'Reilly rather anonymous, Kyle McGregor also off the pace. And not terribly many of Celtic's starting players really came out of the game with much credit for me. However, we then got a penalty, quite how John Beaton needs the VAR official to see a rather obvious handball, pushing the ball over the bar. But happily, Nick Walsh, the VAR referee, did see it and advised John Beaton give a penalty. It was so reminiscent of the Rangers match where John Beaton and Willie Collum seemed to completely ignore a blatant handball by Connor Goldson, um, pushing the ball over the bar. And I had visions of it being another John Beaton performance, which virtually always goes against Celtic. He missed a very obvious penalty, as I was saying, quite why he books Kyogo. Kyogo was blocked out 3 times by the St Mirren defender as Kyogo went to challenge the goalkeeper, who was about to clear the ball. For me, that's obstruction by the St Mirren player, um, who then throws himself to the ground, and John Beaton buys it and books Kyogo, when in fact the St Mirren player was guilty of the bookable offence and thus a penalty. But not surprisingly, John Beaton chose to see things differently, and give Kyogo an undeserved yellow card. Kyogo, for me, rather quiet in the game, really until he and O formed a double header partnership up front. I frequently suggested that O and Kyogo would work well, with O being more of a target man and Kyogo playing a sort of inside forward, off the main striker role, a la Larsson with Sutton and Hartson. And actually, Celtic looked a lot more dangerous once Yang came on. He had quite a number of good shots, showed a lot of pace, was cutting into the box much more than before, shooting much more than before, playing a role more reminiscent of Abada, Jota, and Luis Palma. Luis Palma, I think, also played a good game. Rodgers seems determined to take off Palma after 60 minutes of every match. I think Palma is a player, much like Jota, who will be capable of a bit of magic to win a game, score a goal, etc. And I think unless he's injured or showing real signs of tiredness, as was not the case last night, he should be on the pitch for the full 90 minutes, or at least until the game is safe and won. On the same topic, David Turnbull, rather awful penalty, mishitting the shot, hits the post. Luis Palma struck the rebound very well, and Hemmings, the St Mirren goalkeeper, made a very good save. Celtic did look a lot more dangerous once Yang came on and O came on. Holm, I think, also was a very good addition. Looked a lot more dangerous getting forward and getting back than Turnbull. I think part of Celtic's problems yesterday also was that Forrest is no use at tracking back to help out Johnston. Turnbull is no use at tracking back to help out in midfield or help out the defence. Maeda much better at tracking back to help defence and help the fullbacks, and I think that worked better once Maeda came on, although Maeda was not much of a threat going forward. At least things were a wee bit more safe going back, and that's another reason I think both Turnbull and Forrest shouldn't be in the side, because they don't have the all-round skills to help out in midfield or help out the defenders when the defenders are under pressure. Holm did far better, and Maeda did far better with those roles. And for me, Holm, Bernardo, Iwata need to be the box-to-box replacement for Hatate, Turnbull. Possibly keep him on the bench, bring him on late in the game. However, Turnbull, for me, not a dead ball kicker, no use at corners. His penalty skills aren't that good, actually, and Rodgers really should start using Luis Palma. He is a designated penalty taker for the Honduran national side, designated direct free kick and corner kick player for Honduras. Luis Palma had a great record in Greek football with dead balls, free kicks, corners, and also has a 100% penalty kick success rate in his career. All good reasons why Palmer should now be the number one penalty taker and direct free kick taker, with Matt O'Reilly as his backup. Celtic through O, who I think needs to start at the weekend to give Kyogo a bit of a rest prior to the game against Atletico Madrid the following week. I think O came on, looked dangerous, good partnership with Kyogo. Something looked a lot more threatening at that point. Holm, as I said, getting forward, box to box. Lovely interchange. Celtic going from side to side. Johnson getting the ball in. Kyogo, lovely flick on to Holm. Holm, a brilliant weighted pass with tremendous vision, and a tremendous strike right into the top corner, completely unsavable. Brilliant accuracy, brilliant power, and very much shows why deserves to be an occasional starter and a regular substitute appearance player, and given more than 5-10 minutes at the end of the match when the game is done, seems to be Rodgers' favourite way of using as I said in previous videos, Jurgen Klinsmann thinks that has the potential to be a very top level international striker. And I do tend to agree that has a lot of the skills that are needed for a striker: good vision, good strength, good in the air, and gives us a different threat to which Kyogo Furuhashi provides us. And again, similar, has different skills to other players who are currently the backups to Kyogo, such as Palma and Abada and Maeda, who are all better as wide players rather than through the middle, but would all be emergency central strikers if required. So overall, I think a very good win for Celtic, very important win for Celtic. I think Brendan Rodgers should take a few lessons from the game and ditch Turnbull, ditch Forrest, stop messing about with the defence. If CCV needs a bit of a rest, then bring in Lagerbielka or Nawrocki, ditch Nat Phillips unless absolutely essential. Give Yang some starting time, use as a starter more often to give Kyogo a spell, as he's been an ever-present. Also, I do think probably at the weekend we need to maybe look at giving Matt O'Reilly a bit of a rest, keep him on the bench with Kyogo, give Bernardo, Iwata or Holm a bit of a start in preparation for the Madrid match, when we can bring back a fully fresh, determined Matt O'Reilly and Kyogo to get a point or three in Madrid. No other Celtic news for today, and so we'll finish the video with a request to, if you can, and you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. If you've enjoyed the video, click the like button. Please do pop comments and opinions into the comment section. Always very happy to see other people's opinions, have a chat, have a debate about them, and there will be a Celtic versus Ross County trivia question in the community section a wee bit later on this morning, in preparation for our trip to Dingwall at the weekend. So for today, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, goodbye, and hail, hail.
Yeah.